On my 18th birthday, the man who raised me threw $50 at my face and told me to get out. My name is Athena Carter, and turning 18 was supposed to mean freedom, but instead it became the moment the man who raised me finally cast me out. He hurled a $50 bill at my face and said he was done paying for another man's mistake. For 18 years he waited for this day, 18 years of cold silence, missed recitals, and insults whispered when he thought I couldn't hear. He believed one crumpled bill and a slammed door would be the end of my story. He had no idea it was just the beginning. Take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love hearing from all of you. Where it all started. What happened on my 18th birthday, I need to take you back 10 years to the first time I realized I wasn't like the other kids in my family. I was 8 years old. It was the spring recital at Highlands Ranch Elementary, and I had practiced my piano piece for 3 months straight. My fingers knew every note by heart. My mother, Linda, sat in the front row with her phone out, recording every second. She wore her favorite blue dress, the one she saved for special occasions. The seat next to her was empty. David had a last-minute meeting. That's what Mom told me when I asked where he was. But even at 8, I noticed that he never had last-minute meetings when Connor had his soccer games. Connor was 4 then, and David attended every single match, even the ones where my little brother just picked dandelions on the field instead of playing. After the recital, I found Mom in the hallway. Her eyes were red, but she smiled and told me I was wonderful. "Why doesn't Daddy ever come to my things?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just hugged me tighter than usual. Night, I couldn't sleep. I crept downstairs for water and heard voices in the kitchen. David and Mom. They didn't know I was listening. "I told you I can't pretend forever," David said. "Every time I look at her, I see the mistake you made. She's a child, David. She's innocent in all of this. She's not my child. She never was. And the day she turns 18, she's out of this house." I didn't understand what mistake meant back then. I didn't know why David looked at me differently than he looked at Connor. But I understood one thing clearly. Whatever was wrong with me, it made my mother cry. I went back to bed without the water, and I started counting. Not the days until I could leave, but the days until I could understand why I was never enough. Different between Connor and me wasn't by the time I was 16. I had the receipts to prove it. It was September of my junior year. SAT registration was due, and I needed $200, $150 for the test, $50 for prep books. I approached David in his home office where he sat reviewing spreadsheets for Mercer Properties, the commercial real estate firm where he served as vice president of business development. "I need money for the SAT, I said, straight to the point. I'd learned years ago that David preferred efficiency over pleasantries. "Get a job. The registration deadline is in 2 weeks. I don't have time to—" "Connor needs new soccer cleats. The good ones cost $350. I can't be throwing money at everyone." $350 for soccer cleats for a 14-year-old who would outgrow them in 6 months. But $200 for my college entrance exam was throwing money away. Brood Awakening, 3 blocks from school. Minimum wage, 15 hours a week. It took me 3 months to save enough for the SAT and books, while also covering my own phone bill because David had removed me from the family plan when I turned 15. Connor, meanwhile, got a new iPhone every September, the latest model, no questions asked. And my SAT scores came back, 1480 out of 1600, 96th percentile. I left the report on the kitchen counter where everyone could see it. No one mentioned it. Not David, not Julia, his second wife, not even Connor, who probably didn't understand what the numbers meant. Mom would have been proud. She'd been gone 4 years by then, taken by breast cancer when I was 12. But I like to think she was watching somehow. I didn't ask David for money again after that. If I had to build my future alone, I would. But I also kept a record of every disparity, every slight, every dollar that went to Connor instead of me. I didn't know it then, but that record would become important later. My mother died on a Tuesday. I was 12. The cancer had been aggressive, 14 months from diagnosis to the end. I spent most of that year sitting beside her hospital bed, reading aloud from her favorite books, while the machines beeped their steady rhythm. 3 days before she passed, Mom asked the nurses to give us privacy. She was weak, her voice barely a whisper, but her grip on my hand was surprisingly strong. "There's a letter," she said, "in my jewelry box, the one with the roses on the lid." I knew the box. It sat on her dresser, filled with pieces she never wore anymore. A pearl necklace from her mother, a silver bracelet from her college graduation. "Don't open it until you're 16, she continued. "Promise me, Athena. 16. 16? Because you'll be old enough to understand and strong enough to handle it." I promised. I didn't know what I was promising to, but I would have agreed to anything she asked. She died 3 days later, with me holding her hand and David standing in the doorway, checking his watch. 11 months after the funeral, David married Julia. She was a real estate agent he'd met at a company event, blonde, polished, eager to play the role of Mrs. Mercer. Julia's first act as stepmother was to reorganize the house. Mom's clothes went to donation, her books went to storage, her jewelry box nearly went to the attic, but I grabbed it first. "That's mine," I said, clutching it to my chest. Julia looked at David. He shrugged. "Let her keep it. It's just junk." I hid the box in the back of my closet behind winter coats I'd outgrown, and I waited 4 years. That's how long I kept my promise. I had no idea that one letter would change everything. On my 16th birthday, I opened the jewelry box. It was a Saturday morning. Julia had taken Connor to a travel soccer tournament in Colorado Springs. David was at the golf course, Cherry Hills Country Club, where he spent most weekends pretending to be more important than he was. I sat on my bed with the rose-covered box in my lap. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid and found the envelope tucked beneath a strand of pearls. My name was written on the front in Mom's handwriting. Athena. 3 pages long, written on her personal stationery, dated August 15th, 2019, 2 months before her diagnosis. I read it twice before the words sank in. "My darling Athena, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're old enough to know the truth. David is not your biological father. Before I married him, I had a brief relationship with a man named Marcus Bennett. It ended when he got engaged to someone else. I didn't know I was pregnant until after he was gone. David was pursuing me at the time, and I made a decision I've regretted ever since. I married him and let him believe you were his. He found out when you were 3. He discovered a DNA test I'd hidden. He's known the truth for 15 years, Athena. He chose to stay silent because he didn't want the embarrassment of admitting his wife had been with another man. I'm sorry I never told you. I was afraid of losing you. But you deserve to know who you are. Marcus never knew about you. That wasn't fair to him either. This letter has been notarized and filed with my attorney, Eleanor Vaughn, at Vaughn and Associates. She has instructions to help you if you ever need it. You are not a mistake, Athena. You are the best thing I ever did, and your real father deserves to know you exist. All my love forever, Mom." I sat there for an hour, reading the letter over and over. Everything finally made sense, and nothing would ever be the same. That night, I typed Marcus Bennett, Denver, into search. DeMennett, CEO and co-founder of Bennett Capital Partners, a private equity fund specializing in commercial real estate and renewable energy. Assets under management, $2.3 billion. I stared at the number. Billion, with a B. Photos. A tall man with silver hair and sharp blue eyes, the same shade as mine. He wore tailored suits in most pictures, standing at podiums or shaking hands with governors and mayors. But the detail that made my heart stop was buried in a Denver Business Journal article from March 2022. Bennett Capital continues to dominate Colorado's commercial real estate market, outbidding smaller competitors in at least 7 major deals over the past decade. The article named one of those smaller competitors, Mercer Properties. The company David worked for, had been co-founded by Marcus 20 years ago. They'd split over a business dispute, and Marcus had gone on to build an empire while David remained a vice president at the firm they'd started together. David hated Marcus Bennett. I'd heard him complain about that arrogant fool at dinner parties, blaming Marcus for every deal that fell through, every contract lost to a higher bidder. And now I knew why David looked at me with such contempt. Every time he saw my face, he saw the man who had beaten him at everything: business success and, apparently, my mother's heart. The question now was simple. Did Marcus Bennett want to know I existed? I needed to be strategic. In September of my senior year, I wrote a letter to Marcus Bennett. Not an email, a physical letter sent to Bennett Capital Partners headquarters in downtown Denver. I included a copy of Mom's letter and a simple request: an independent DNA test to confirm the truth. Then 3. I checked the mailbox every day, my stomach churning with a mixture of hope and dread. On day 18, a response arrived. Not from Marcus directly, but from his attorney. The letter was brief and professional. Mr. Bennett was willing to undergo DNA testing at Gene Trust Labs, a certified facility. An appointment had been scheduled for October 15th. The test took 5 minutes. A cheek swab, some paperwork, a promise that results would arrive within 2 weeks. On November 8th, I received the report. Case number GT-2023-10808. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. 3 days later, my phone rang. An unknown number with a Denver area code. The voice was deep, measured. "This is Marcus Bennett. I just received the results." I couldn't speak. My throat had closed completely. "I didn't know about you," he continued. "Your mother never told me. But now that I know, I'm not going anywhere. I promise you that." I believed him. March 15th arrived cold and gray, the sky heavy with clouds that couldn't decide whether to rain or snow. I woke at 6:47, 13 minutes before my alarm. For a moment, I lay still, staring at the ceiling of the room I'd slept in for 18 years. The walls were bare now. I'd taken down the posters and photos weeks ago, packing them into boxes that sat in the corner, ready to go. I could feel it in my bones. I showered, dressed in jeans and a navy sweater, and went downstairs. The kitchen smelled like coffee and toast. Julia stood at the counter, scrolling through her phone. Connor sat at the table, shoveling cereal into his mouth while watching something on his iPad. Either of them looked up when I entered. No happy birthday, no card, no cake. I hadn't expected any of those things, but the absence still stung. Sat at the head of the table reading the Denver Post. He didn't acknowledge me either, but I noticed his jaw was tight, his shoulders rigid. He'd been waiting for this day for years. I poured myself a glass of orange juice and glanced out the window. There it was, a black Mercedes S-Class parked at the corner of our street, just visible through the bare branches of the oak tree in our front yard. Marcus was already here, waiting. In my jacket pocket felt heavier than paper should. Inside were the DNA results, a copy of Mom's letter, and a photograph of Marcus and me taken 2 months ago at a coffee shop downtown, the first time we'd met in person. Whatever happened next, I was ready. David folded his newspaper and looked at me for the first time that morning. "We need to talk," he said. David wallet and pulled out a $50 bill. He didn't hand it to me. He threw it. The bill landed on the table in front of me next to my untouched orange juice. "You're 18 now," he said. "I'm done." Grant's face looked back at me, indifferent. "Excuse me?" Voice was flat, rehearsed. He'd been practicing this speech. "I fulfilled my legal obligation. You're an adult. Get out." Julia set down her phone. "David, maybe we should—" "No. I paid for everything myself, with money I earned working at a coffee shop." Marcus turned back to David. "So where did $47,000 go?" Julia's eyes darted to the spreadsheet. I saw her expression shift. Not guilt exactly, but recognition. She knew where that money had gone. Connor's soccer camps, Connor's private coaching, Connor's endless parade of new electronics. "That's embezzlement," Marcus said quietly. Under Colorado law, a trustee who misappropriates funds can be held personally liable, plus interest, plus legal fees. Can't prove. Have. Marcus tapped the folder. My attorney, Eleanor Vaughn, has been reviewing these records for months. The same Eleanor Vaughn your wife Linda hired to protect Athena's interests before she died. David like he might be sick. We'll discuss this more, Marcus said, after the gala. One more thing, Marcus pulled a second document from the folder. A printed email, complete with headers and timestamps. David's face went from September 12th, 2018, Marcus read. From David Mercer, Mercer Properties, to your personal attorney. Subject, inheritance issue, confidential. He held up the paper so everyone could see. I need to know my options for minimizing inheritance obligations to a child who is not biologically mine. Specifically, can I exclude her from my will without disclosing the reason? And what happens to her mother's trust fund if the child is removed from the household before age 18? Even Connor looked disturbed. Where did you get that? David's voice was barely a whisper. Your company's IT department isn't as loyal as you think, Marcus said, especially when they're offered better opportunities elsewhere. I hadn't known about this email. Marcus had mentioned he was gathering evidence, but I didn't realize how deep he'd dug. Since I was 12, I said. The words came out steady, factual. Before Mom even died. David couldn't meet my eyes. The gala is in 1 week, Marcus said, tucking the documents back into the folder. I suggest you spend that time consulting with your lawyer, because after Saturday night, everyone in Denver's business community will know exactly what kind of man you are. He extended his hand to me. Athena, let's go. I took one last look at the kitchen, at Julia's frozen expression, Connor's confusion, David's crumbling composure. Then I walked out the door with my father. My real father. The started everyone. David threw me out thinking he'd won, but he had no idea who my real father was. And the best part? It's still coming. In 1 week, everyone David spent his whole life trying to impress will learn the truth about him. If you want to see what happens at that gala, hit like and subscribe right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. I should have known David wouldn't go quietly. The week after my birthday, I moved into a guest apartment in Marcus's building downtown, a sleek high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was temporary, just until I started college in the fall. But it felt like a different planet compared to the house in Highlands Ranch. I unpacked my boxes. I explored the neighborhood. I had dinner with Marcus twice, awkward but genuine conversations where we tried to fill 18 years of silence. Then the attacks began. Tuesday, March 18th, I received a call from my high school principal. David had contacted her, claiming I was emotionally unstable and fabricating stories about my family. He suggested I might need evaluation before graduation. The principal, thankfully, knew me well enough to be skeptical. But the call shook me. An email arrived from the University of Colorado Boulder's admissions office. Subject line, clarification needed. Dear Miss Carter, we have received information suggesting inconsistencies in your financial aid application. Specifically, concerns have been raised about your family situation and guardianship status. Please contact our office to schedule a meeting before your enrollment can be finalized. Deadline, April 1st. I stare minutes before calling Marcus. He can't hurt me directly anymore, so he's going after everything I've built. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Eleanor Vaughn will handle the university and the principal. David is digging his own grave. He just doesn't know it yet. You mean, the gala is Saturday. He'll be there to accept his award. And so will we. I didn't understand yet, but I would. Brooklyn wasn't just going to lose. He was going to lose in front of everyone who mattered to him. A Fifth Denver Chamber of Commerce charity gala was the social event of the spring season. I learned this from Marcus, who explained it over dinner on Friday night, the eve of the event. He said, cutting into a steak, business leaders, investors, city officials, everyone who matters in Denver's commercial real estate world will be there. And David, He's being honored as Developer of the Year. Marcus's smile was thin. An award he's been campaigning for since 2019. It's the validation he's always wanted, proof that he belongs among the city's elite. I pushed my salad around my plate. So we're going to take that away from him. Marcus set down his knife and fork. We're going to let him take it away from himself. All we have to do is show up. The gala was being held at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown, in the grand ballroom on the second floor. Black tie, champagne, a silent auction benefiting children's literacy programs. Marcus Bennett was the primary sponsor, having donated $500,000 to the cause. As lead sponsor, I give the opening remarks, Marcus explained. I have about 10 minutes on stage before they start handing out awards. What are you going to say? He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. The truth, that's all, just the truth. I thought about David, probably at home right now, rehearsing his acceptance speech, practicing his humble smile in the mirror, imagining the applause, the handshakes, the photos that would appear in the Denver Business Journal. He had no idea what was coming. What should I wear? I asked. Marcus smiled. A real smile this time, warm and paternal. I had something delivered to your apartment this afternoon. Consider it a birthday gift. 7:30 in the evening. The navy blue gown fit perfectly. Floor-length silk with a modest neckline, elegant without being flashy. Marcus had chosen well. We arrived at the Four Seasons together, his hand steady on my elbow as we walked through the gilded lobby. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across marble floors. Well-dressed couples mingled near the bar, their laughter echoing off high ceilings. I'd never been to anything like this. My world had been coffee shops and high school hallways, not ballrooms and champagne flutes. But I kept my chin up and my shoulders back, channeling every ounce of composure I'd developed over 18 years of surviving David's household. 7:04. I know the exact time because I checked my phone, wanting to remember every detail. The room was stunning. Round tables draped in white linen, centerpieces of white roses and eucalyptus, a stage at the far end with a podium and a massive screen displaying the Chamber of Commerce logo. And there, near the bar, stood David. He wore a tuxedo that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Julia was beside him in a red dress, laughing at something one of the investors said. David held a champagne flute, gesturing expansively as he told some story about a recent deal. Lips. His eyes moved from my face to Marcus, then back to me. I watched the color drain from his cheeks in real time. He excused himself from his group and strode toward us, his expression murderous. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I was invited," I said calmly. "My father is the lead sponsor." Several heads turned at the word father. Phones appeared in hands. Someone whispered. David's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Marcus Bennett is not your father. He's a con artist who's using you to get at me." The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. A circle was forming, drawn by the promise of drama. "David," Julia appeared at his elbow, her face tight with alarm. "Not here, please." He shook her off. "No, everyone needs to know what's happening here." He pointed at me, his finger trembling with rage. "This girl is not my daughter. She's the product of my late wife's affair, a burden I was forced to raise for 18 years. Gasps, murmurs. I saw at least 3 phones rise, cameras pointed in our direction. "I gave her a roof over her head," David continued, his voice rising. "I fed her, I clothed her, and this is how she repays me? By showing up here with him?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. David was doing all the work himself. "She's a liar and a manipulator, just like her mother was. Linda fooled me for years, and now her daughter is trying to do the same thing. Don't believe a word she says." Even the string quartet had stopped playing. I Marcus's hand on my shoulder. "Steady." "Are you finished?" I asked David. His face was red now, veins visible at his temples. "I'm just getting started. You think you can ruin me? You're nothing. You've always been nothing." Really looked at him for what might be the last time. "David, you're doing that yourself." The corner of my eye, I saw Marcus walking toward the stage. It was time. The MC, a silver-haired woman in a black sequined dress, tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. It's time to begin our program. Please welcome our lead sponsor and keynote speaker, Mr. Marcus Bennett." Applaud filled the ballroom. Marcus climbed the steps to the stage with the easy confidence of a man who had addressed thousands of audiences. He shook the MC's hand, adjusted the microphone, and smiled out at the crowd. "Thank you all for being here tonight. The providing even more stage that week set at me. I thought the Denver Chamber of Commerce Charity Gala has raised over $12 million for children's literacy programs over the past 15 years. That's something we should all be proud of." More applause. David had retreated to his table, his face still flushed. Julia whispered urgently in his ear. "Tonight I want to talk about something personal," Marcus continued. "About family. About the choices we make and the consequences that follow." This wasn't the typical sponsor speech. Made a choice that I've regretted ever since. I walked away from someone I cared about because I thought I had better options. I didn't know then that she was carrying my child. The whispers intensified. I saw heads turning, searching for context. 6 months ago, I received a letter from a remarkable young woman. She had spent 2 years researching her own history, gathering evidence, building a case. She did this not for revenge, but for truth, for the right to know where she came from. Marcus looked directly at me. "That young woman is here tonight, and I'd like to introduce her to you, not as a secret, not as a scandal, but as my daughter." He extended his hand toward me. "Athena, would you join me on stage?" Felt like it took an hour. 400 faces watched me cross the ballroom floor. 400 pairs of eyes tracked my every step. I heard whispers. "Bennett's daughter? Who is she? Did he say 18 years? Climbed the stairs and took Marcus's hand. He pulled me gently to his side, facing the crowd. "This is Athena Carter," he said into the microphone. "Or as I hope she'll allow me to call her someday, Athena Bennett, my daughter." The applause started slowly, then built. Not everyone clapped. Some were too stunned, others too busy processing, but enough did that the sound filled the room. "Athena spent 18 years in a household that didn't want her," Marcus continued. "She was told she was a mistake. She was denied basic support while her stepbrother received everything. She paid for her own SAT registration by working at a coffee shop because the man who was supposed to be her guardian refused to give her $200. I saw David's table. His face was ashen. Julia had her hand over her mouth. The other guests at their table were leaning away, as if David's disgrace might be contagious. Despite all of that, Marcus said, Athena graduated with a 3.9 GPA. She scored in the 96th percentile on her SATs. She earned a partial scholarship to the University of Colorado Boulder. She did all of this alone, without help, without support, without anyone telling her she was worthy. He turned to me, his eyes glistening. "I missed 18 years of your life, Athena. I can't get those back, but I can promise you this. From today forward, you will never be alone again." I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight, so I just nodded and squeezed his hand. Marcus gestured toward the side of the stage where a woman in a tailored gray suit stood waiting. "For those who might question the validity of what I've shared, allow me to introduce Eleanor Vaughn, senior partner at Vaughn & Associates. Ms. Vaughn has been the custodian of the documentation that proves Athena's parentage." Eleanor stepped forward, her presence commanding immediate respect. She was in her late 40s with sharp features and the composed demeanor of someone who had spent decades in courtrooms. "Good evening," she said into the microphone. "I have in my possession the following documents. First, a notarized letter written by Linda Carter Mercer on August 15, 2019, attesting to Marcus Bennett's biological paternity of her daughter, Athena. Second, DNA test results from Gene Trust Labs dated November 8, 2023, confirming a 99.97% probability of paternal match between Mr. Bennett and Miss Carter. The same folder Marcus had shown David a week ago. These documents have been authenticated and are available for legal review. There is no ambiguity here. Athena Carter is Marcus Bennett's biological daughter. Room buzzed with reaction. I saw a reporter from the Denver Business Journal scribbling furiously in a notebook. Phones were out everywhere, recording, texting, posting. Table had become an island of silence. The other guests had physically shifted their chairs away from him. No one wanted to be associated with what was unfolding. One more thing, Eleanor added. I am also in possession of financial records indicating that David Mercer, as trustee of Athena's inheritance from her late mother, withdrew $47,000 from her trust fund over a 5-year period. Legal proceedings to recover those funds will begin Monday morning. David stood abruptly, knocking over his champagne glass. He didn't say a word, made it about 10 steps toward the exit before someone called out, "Running away, Mercer?" He stopped, turned. His face was a mask of barely controlled fury. "This is a setup," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Marcus has been trying to destroy me for 20 years. He's using that girl to finish the job." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few people looked at Marcus, then at me, then back at David. "The DNA test is fake," David continued, striding back toward the stage. "The documents are forged. This is all a lie designed to humiliate me." Marcus didn't flinch. Gene Trust Labs is one of the most respected facilities in the country. Their results have been used in thousands of legal proceedings. Are you suggesting they're part of my conspiracy? I'm suggesting you paid them off. And the letter from Linda, your own wife, is that forged too? David's mouth opened, then closed. He had no answer. "My daughter a burden in front of 50 witnesses," Marcus said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "You admitted publicly that you knew she wasn't your biological child and that you resented her for it. You did that before I said a single word." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. "Everything that's happening to you tonight, David, you brought on yourself." Someone in the crowd shouted, "What about the trust fund money?" David's face went pale. "That's a private matter." $47,000, another voice called out, "from a child's inheritance. That's theft." The crowd was turning. I could feel it. The collective judgment shifting, the social tide pulling away from David and toward us. Julia appeared at his side, tugging his arm. "David, we need to leave, now." They fled through the side door, leaving their table empty. The Monday after the gala, Eleanor Vaughn filed suit in Denver County Court. Case number 2024 CV0892. Plaintiff, Athena Carter. Defendant, David Mercer. The complaint was straightforward: breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriation of trust funds, and failure to properly manage assets held for a minor beneficiary. We were seeking full recovery of the $47,000 David had withdrawn, plus interest at 8% annually, plus attorney's fees. "The evidence is overwhelming," Eleanor told me during our meeting that afternoon. Her office was on the 17th floor of a downtown high-rise with views of the mountains to the west. Bank statements, withdrawal records, signed authorizations, all in David's name. And we have your testimony about what you actually received. Nothing. What happens now? David has 30 days to respond. He can settle or he can fight. But fighting means discovery. And discovery means we get access to all his financial records. She smiled slightly. I don't think he wants that. I thought about the David asked his lawyer about cutting me out of the will. If that email existed, what else was hidden in his files? Something else, Eleanor continued. The university's situation has been resolved. I spoke with the admissions office this morning. They've reviewed the concerns David raised and found them baseless. Your enrollment is confirmed. Relief washed over me. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You built an impeccable record despite everything working against you. David's accusations only made him look petty and vindictive. I left Eleanor's office feeling lighter than I had in years. The legal process would take time, months probably, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. David had spent 18 years making me feel powerless. That was over now. David's lawyer called Eleanor on April 10th, 3 weeks after the lawsuit was filed. They want to settle, Eleanor told me over the phone. Full repayment of the $47,000 plus $8,500 in accrued interest, plus our legal fees, $12,000. They're also agreeing to transfer the remaining balance of your mother's trust fund immediately. I did the math in my head. That's over $200,000 total. $200,500 to be precise. And they're not contesting anything. No discovery, no depositions, no trial. Why? Because David can't afford the scrutiny. The gala was a disaster for him, professionally and personally. His partners at Mercer Properties have been distancing themselves ever since. A prolonged legal battle would only make things worse. The settlement was signed on April 15th, exactly 1 month after my 18th birthday. I didn't need to see David's face as he wrote the check. I didn't need his apology, which, according to Eleanor, he didn't offer anyway. Closure, and that's what I got. I stared at the balance on my phone screen for a long time. $200,500. It was about being seen, being acknowledged, being told, finally, that what happened to me was wrong. David had spent 18 years treating me like I was worthless. Now he had paid, literally, for that mistake. Marcus took me to dinner the night the settlement money arrived. A quiet Italian restaurant in Lodo, the kind of place with white tablecloths and candles flickering in wine bottles. I want to pay for your college, he said after we'd ordered. All of it, tuition, housing, books, everything. I set down my water glass. I appreciate that, but no. He looked surprised. Why not? Because I've spent 18 years proving I don't need anyone. I'm not going to start depending on someone now. Even you. Athena, I'm your father. It's not dependence, and then I told me what we make. I repaired to them even, and say that. But I know Wright reached across the table and touched his hand. And I'm grateful you're in my life. But I need to do this myself. The trust fund money, my scholarship, that's enough. More than enough. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I could see him wrestling with it. The instinct to provide, battling against the recognition that I needed autonomy. Your mother raised you well, he finally said. She did. Okay, he squeezed my hand. But if you ever need anything at all, I'm here. No strings attached. I know. Things. His business, my plans for college, the apartment I was looking at near campus. Normal father-to-daughter conversation. Or at least what I imagined normal father-to-daughter conversation might sound like. I didn't need Marcus's money to prove I was worthy. I had already proven that, every single day for 18 years. Before, a lot of you watching have been through something similar. Being overlooked, undervalued, made to feel like you didn't matter by the people who were supposed to love you. If this story resonates with you, drop a comment below and share this video. Sometimes knowing you're not alone is the most important thing. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the ending. We're almost there.